really gotta build us a new intro. After like 5 years of the same thing, and like actually no, it's only been like a year of the same one. We had a complex one for a while, but yeah. At this point, I think I need to come up with something new.
I think there's merit to that. Well, it's funny you even bring that up. Like, have you ever heard of Mike Tyson's hot boxing podcast?
I've watched clips of it or listen.
So, RIP, it like it's done.
Yeah,
So I think one thing I'm learning doing this podcast is like I think we set out with some very specific goals, and when we accomplish those goals, it's like everything after that is like just victory laps. So we've been able to take these victory laps for years where because there's not this need or desire to like turn every podcast into something monetized, our goals can be abstract and in line with like creativity to the point where I'm like, this this platform is in terms of its capacity to reach, it has just as much capacity as any other podcast. There's just not the same effort to like monetize. And then we also have an algorithmic block of like neither one of us is a white male. So like the algorithm just doesn't like either one of us, regardless of what we say. No algorithm, not just the YouTube one. So we have these things working against us in terms of
well, occasionally we get
I
some ass jacket in like some country who thinks that we're saying something offensive about their culture when we're really telling a joke about American culture being completely inept and unable to recognize the intrinsic ethnocentrism that permeates through Western culture. And it's hard to communicate that sometimes without just blanket stating it like that. But occasionally we have to remind people.
and in that I think there is this we have a freedom to discuss those things because we're not worried about offending some advertiser or some sponsor or anything like that. Um, but I think that's wherein when people discuss the notion of cancel culture, it's that impingement upon their freedom that they lament because they are beholden to money. That when you're not beholden to money, you don't really have that. And we're not really trying to say super offensive shit anyway. So it's like, I think it's more so people, if they just don't like what you're saying, they'll try to get it taken, either get you to self censor or get the platform you're using to take it down. So I think that's where
Man, I'm about to sound really old, but there was a time in this country, probably about 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago even, where when somebody was being stupid or being a dummy, we just ridiculed them. Like, hey, don't be a dummy. Don't be stupid. And we kept our friends in line that way. There was like this kind of like self check that a network of people kept, they kind of kept each other in line with this is what we're about. But when we have this global culture of I'm offended about that, I'm going to do something about it, then it becomes something else. It's like not there's no culture of the internet. If there is, it's a failure because it allows racism and extremism and nationalism to permeate. It promotes propaganda. There's truth in the internet. There's a lot of factual information, but almost all of the mechanisms to distribute information are being utilized to share, a bunch of crap.
And those voices get amplified in a way that make them seem more prevalent and more ubiquitous than they actually are in real life.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
why I think it's good for people to like not be chronically online. Which it's real. I think it's more difficult for people not to be chronically online than they want to acknowledge. And when I mean chronically online, I mean letting the algorithm take you where it's taking you instead of actively taking a role in your information consumption. For example, like the the browsers these days will have news stories baked in, just and it tries to grab your attention before you even have a chance to enter where you're planning to go when you're trying to open up the internet to go somewhere. And if you let it take you, you might spend half an hour or an hour on some click journey that was started because of one headline. And if you don't forget what you were originally doing, it may be an hour before you even get to where you're going because the algorithm takes you. And
Oh, yeah, the rabbit
I,
hole.
yeah, and it's like those, and the problem is it's not just one rabbit hole. It's an an effectively infinite number of rabbit holes that if this headline doesn't grab your attention, it's gonna change the headline every 3 seconds. And by the time you get a chance to enter wherever you're trying to go, a headline is going to be in your interest area enough to grab your attention. And if you don't have the wherewithal to avoid clicking it, it's going to pull you into that specific rabbit hole. And un- I think one of the problems that you're alluding to is like, it doesn't matter which rabbit hole you go down. Every comment section is going to have racism in it. Every comment section is going to have misogyny. Every comment section is going to have nationalism. Unfortunately, and this is the guarantee we can have with internet culture. And what I think right wing people are doing in their language is they're using that phenomena to cover up their racist language. So if it's like, if you're talking about cancel culture, they're basically actually just talking about the inability to speak about minorities without financial repercussion. And it doesn't matter if people get mad at you or not. It's matters if you start losing work because you can't talk about the Chinese or you can't talk about the blacks anymore in the same way that you used to be able to. And those people want to have that quote unquote freedom of speech without fear of financial reprisal. And that's the issue, because there's no real such thing as like cancel culture. Like, uh, have you heard about Ed Piskor?
No, I can't say that I have.
So it's a very unfortunate situation. Long story short, this guy was a comic book artist, and he during COVID, he was like doing some shit he shouldn't have and texting with a teenage girl. And after COVID, I won't say it subsided, like the COVID restrictions subsided, he like tried to go back to his normal life. Well, this teenage girl becomes an adult and then calls him out on like the bad behavior. Well, this dude ends up like unaliving himself. So then people are like, cancel culture. And I'm like, you can't possibly make it seem as if quote unquote cancel culture made this dude do this, because it doesn't have that much power, and nobody made him do that. So like the idea that people calling a person creepy for creepy behavior is somehow they're the responsible parties for his creepy behavior and him doing that, like, permanent solution to a temporary problem. Blaming cancel culture is just a way to remove the responsibility off of this guy, because it's like, on the one hand, it's obviously a tragedy with what the way it went down, but then trying to remove the responsibility and blame it on cancel culture is just a way to like absolve a cishet male from any sort of responsibility to answering for anything. And I think that's where I'm like, the only reason I even brought it up is because I saw the comic book community kind of come together
Oh
to
shit, he
like,
checked out last week.
yeah, and the comic book community kind of came together to condemn cancel culture, and I'm like, that's the absolute worst and wrong thing to take away from this whole situation, which is why I'm like, I feel compelled to speak on that as a comic book person, because I can't like watch the comic book community go along with that and make it seem like a person trying to call out creepy behavior that's not illegal and not have them then be responsible for that person when they do that to themselves. It's like, no, that's not her fault. That's 100% his fault. All of it's his fault. The fact
Yeah,
that the
he was
girl
the
had to
adult in the
come out
room.
and say it. Exactly. So the notion that the girl's the woman at this, well, she's not really like, I don't know if a 20-year-old's a woman. The adult girl, it's like, I know it's legally technically supposed to be an adult, but it's like I hesitate to call a 20-year-old a woman, which is why a fucking 41 or 38-year-old shouldn't be texting with that person the
A
way he was
17-year
doing.
old.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean,
That's less than half his age. Oh
right at
god,
the
that's just even
time,
worse.
yeah, so it's like, obviously the behavior was wrong. It wasn't illegal. And so I think that's where people are having a hard time understanding that like everything that's legal isn't moral and everything that's legal isn't ethical. So when something's immoral and something's unethical, it needs to be called out, especially if there's no legal repercussions. And then to come out and try to blame the people who called out the legal, unethical, immoral behavior as if it's their fault for what he did subsequently, it's bullshit. And that's kind of like, I can't, there's a lot of communities that then have these type of like ubiquitous reactions to things where I'm like, I don't want to be identified with this anymore. Like, I didn't really, there wasn't a lot of things that made me want to identify with the comic book community in the first place besides the media, but then the fact that they can come together for certain issues where it's like they can't come together to support diversity in comic books. That's one of the things they can come together against. So that's where I'm like, strike one. They can't come together in Comicsgate when there were like openly hypersexualization of women in comic books, and then
Yeah, for like decades.
yeah,
Decades
but
of it.
then the unabashed embracing of that being like, well, this is our place to do that, so what are you going to do about it? As the response, strike two. With the Ed Piscor thing, it's like, that's definitely strike three for me with the fucking comic book community, in a way where I'm like, I had, it's not like I'm going to stop reading comic books, but there's certain benefits of the doubt that you give the communities that I'm no longer going to give them what I started to retract in the first place, but now I'm definitely not going to give them. It's the same shit with like the gamer communities and the internet community. I think it's like a lot of the same community that you're talking about being the toxic internet culture. It's present. I don't know if it necessarily seeped into these other places. I think it was just always present, but now those people feel even more emboldened because algorithms love them, because unfortunately they're getting a lot of control to construct how the algorithms play out, and then they'll be like, oh, the algorithms are woke, so then they come
I mean,
and try to get
unlike
even
a
more power.
unlike a video game which can disappear and then die and then the servers get taken offline to never be played again by anyone. Like, that happened to a couple Halo servers over the years. Then comic books will last as long as the paper is preserved. Graphic novels are almost they're as timeless as any other book.
On that note, not to distract, the thing you just brought up, they're trying to make an effort to stop that from happening
Oh,
in Europe.
the server demise of gaming
Yeah,
servers.
basically it because it undermines the notion of if you're a person who buys a video game and then the servers can be shut down and you're not being able to access that game anymore, it effectively
They
takes away a
steal.
person's yeah, it's but it also takes away a person's capacity to trust that when they buy something that they'll be able to use it perpetually. And so the notion is like you can't force companies to preserve servers forever, but you can make them make their code open source if they're going to shut down maintenance on their servers.
So I'm
And
never
it's
gonna
happened.
give the company that makes Eve money again because of this exact reason. I actually paid money for a game called Valkyrie, and it's a
Yep,
first-person
me too.
fighter spacecraft game, and they marketed it as being built into the Eve universe, and so the idea was in multiplayer you would sign in and you would just emerge out of the bay of some carrier that's involved in some kind of skirmish or whatever. But that didn't happen. And it was also supposed to be tied into the first person shooter game. I can't even remember what it was called. But you're supposed to be able to provide support for like ground units in a massive shooter game, kind of like Call of Duty, but in on another planet in another galaxy. And that didn't materialize. And it's not that I've got a pretty fun tune built up in Eve, but half of it I can't use unless I'm willing to pay for it, like subscriptions, just so I can fly around and do some extra stuff, and that's not worth it to me. It was fun for a while, and I hit that ceiling where it's like, oh, I'm gonna see what this game's like if I actually pay for it, and then it was good enough that the universe is story rich and good enough that I wanted to play this flying game because that's my real preference is flying games, and they took it away. I would have been fine with a local server that only allows me to play the campaign mode, all like whatever 6 levels, and they could have easily built in like a skirmish generator, and that could have been locally hosted, very simply. Like just run it in campaign mode. If Ace Combat can have like 20 levels of campaign mode and 3 special levels, then Eve can absolutely do that too. But they don't. Ace Combat has the shittiest multiplayer that I've ever experienced. It was just like I saw these planes that were firing weapons that belonged to other planes. So, like having a super plane, but then giving it the super weapon from a different super plane, so it can do even more shit. And then instead of just being able to fire like 12 missiles, fires like 24. And in the game, that kind of missile should just go for whatever's near it. But instead, they would all just track the one, so they're behaving like a completely different type of missile. And then I've got a liquid smooth, lightning fast internet connection, and to watch my frame rate drop to like -1 and 3, and then back down into the negatives, and then jump up into other single digits. It's like what kind of crap are these people running? Why isn't there like a an effort on from for I don't know, Bandai, I guess, to do something about it? But they don't care because I guess there's only like 50 people who want to go and chase each other around in multiplayer. But those people ruin, literally ruin the attempt at getting people to play a game together. Because all they want to do is fly around in a plane that doesn't exist and use weapons that can't be used, and fly in a way that's not even really flying.
Well, it's like that's one of the reasons I hate online play in general is those types of people. They're in every fucking game you play online.
Yeah.
It don't matter if it's Tony Hawk, it don't matter if it's fucking Suicide Squad. There's always that person, and it ruins the capacity for the game to be played the way it's meant to be. And those people don't care, and they just like ruining other people's fun is how they have fun. So I enjoy when those types of people are banned quickly from online games, but some games just let them persist. So it's like really, really difficult to know. I generally just stay away from online games because of those types of people. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough because some games actually have a lot of potential for fun, and it gets ruined just by a few bad people will ruin it for a group of people, and they're just like a persistent presence. Every game has them. You're right. I was just when once you said that, I started thinking about it. Like every time Star Trek is the only game I've found where, because it's you have to create a PvP sandbox within the game to and invite people to, like, let's battle. There's no like in-world confrontation where you're gonna just like run into another player and have to duke it out. You can't even target your own, like, anyone that's not part of the game. And some NPC, you can't even target some of the NPCs. Like, they're just there. And so they're really strict about it, I think, in terms of like how they allow players to interact with each other. You can only help each other essentially. And so if you're not there for that, then you can go over here into this other room where there's only like 5 people and you guys can have fun with each other. And it works. I think that's why I keep going back to that game.
oh my god, have you played Fallout? I think it's 3.
Oh, not yet.
So it's either 3 or New Vegas. Um, I learned this. Apparently, there's like kid NPCs in the game, and like you can put your gun sights on them, and it'll like give you the option, and it'll be like, "Are you sure you want to shoot this kid?" And it's like most people generally don't, but then if you do, every single person in the game from that point hates you, and your game is basically over. And it like knows, it like won't let anybody interact with you without hating you and being like treating you like a child killer. And it's like that's like one of the funniest things I've ever heard of being built into a game, where it's like it gives you the option to do it, but their game is basically instantly over. Like
Oh
you can
man.
keep playing, but you can't do any missions. You can't like go buy anything. And it's
Yeah.
like people then start like shooting after, like everybody basically tries to kill you on sight from that point on. And
As
it's
they
not like,
should.
yeah, oh for sure, but it's like even if you do it where nobody can see you, the game
Game
lets
knows.
everybody know. Yeah.
Man, what a great mechanism. What a fucking fantastic. Well, there's only like, 20 people per 100 square miles in Fallout, and so everyone knows everyone. And if someone gets shot and there's a random dude wandering around the wasteland, it's a pretty good bet that it was that random person that nobody fucking knows. And word doesn't travel fast, but it travels. You know.
Oh yeah, and then there's like missions where you can like liberate slaves, or you can start engaging in the trade. And depending on what choice you make, is like, if people don't like slavery, they're not gonna like you from that point on, and they'll like treat you as such, because it like where it travels.
Yeah.
So I think there's ways that that mechanism can be used to like give people the option to do the things that they want to do online, but then actually make repercussions happen that don't necessarily happen online, because online is like the wild worse than the Wild West in a way, in that
Man, it's like actually
it doesn't feel like there's physical repercussions, but there really are.
it's really quite impressive actually because that Fallout has this mechanic because one might assume, oh yeah, it's the wasteland, it's the future, everything's fucked. Like you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. But the reality is, and we've talked about this many times, that like nobody can make it on their own. Eventually, people need help. Eventually, something happens, and you need more than one set of hands. And even in Fallout, they demonstrate that the communities are stronger than individuals, and they might need the assistance of a the savior for a quest, but sometimes they need a badass to show up and kill the Deathclaw. But that's what life is like in the wasteland. Sometimes people need help. That's how it works. I can't imagine trying to play Fallout with like no one being willing to talk to you or treating you like, oh, that's a slaver, can't go near them. Because, or I can't even imagine what it's like to make that decision and go into that version of the game, because I wouldn't make that decision.
Right. Yeah. I didn't make that decision
Like,
either. So it was like, I didn't even know that that was a repercussion until I heard the discussion of it.
and then you realize, wait, this is a discussion of like Fallout slavers and Fallout child murderers. What am I even doing here? Fuck.
Well, and what was funny was like the discussion was discussing the negative aspects, but because I played through like as a liberator, I was like, well, that's true, but these things also happen if you don't do those things. And it's like all of the negative things that bad people might do in those games are possibilities, and the repercussions are there, because if you don't do those things, then it's going to treat you differently, and you're going to have a completely different response from people throughout the game. Um, Even at one point, it's like, I think there's a town called Megaton. And it's like there's a bomb at the center of the town, and the rich people want you to set off the bomb. And if you set off the bomb, you can stay in the tower with the rich people, but everybody else hates you. And it's like, you can not go along with the rich people and then they'll ostracize you, but it's really only just like a small group in that tower. And even though they have some power and influence over like the electrical grid, and they can like put out hits on you, I think. But it's like, you definitely would rather have the people on your side than these fucking rich people. And it's like, they're
I mean,
all
can
of
you
the
hunt
lessons.
down the rich people and take them out one by one?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
then that's kind of what you end up having to do.
But it doesn't. It like fucks up your game. Like there's certain things where if you do it, it stops story progress, and you can't finish the game. So it's like you can kill people that are part of the storyline, but then you won't be able to finish the game.
Ah.
So like it's funny in that way where like say you're having a conversation with somebody who's part of the main story. Like once that conversation's done, you can just start killing them and then steal all their shit, but then you won't be able to finish the story. which is like I feel like that's good punishment for people who do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds that like kill their teammates in online games and shit like that. So there are fitting punishments for those kinds of people who want to do disruptive, unethical, immoral shit in the game without repercussion, and understand that it's like, no, this is not that type of party. Like we have ethics here.
Oh, it looks like in Megaton, if you kill the sheriff for whatever reason, then his brother will give you the reward. Huh.
Oh, maybe the sheriff is. I haven't played that one for a while, but it's like,
Yeah, it looks like the sheriff's a bad guy.
yeah, and that's what those games are good at is like they'll introduce you to somebody, and then that person will seem like they're meant to be your ally, and then you find out they're like a slaver, and then you're like, oh shit.
Well, this is
Okay.
kind of actually kind of interesting because uh, in I have the Fallout Shelter game running on my iPad, and I have a Lucas Sims character that I got it from a quest where I cleared out a large building. Actually, it's probably one of the largest buildings that I've had to, uh, well, above ground facilities that I've sent people to explore. And now he's one of my like tier one quest dudes that I send out because he's all leveled up and has power armor and a missile launcher. I turned one of the bad guys from Fallout 3 into one of my like SEAL team dudes. Oh, good. That's just funny.
Well, and that so that game series is one of my favorites in that you don't always have to win the game with violence. You can like win the game with intelligence.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen automatically. Just because you have 100 level intelligence doesn't mean that you make the right choice to actually win the game. That using that method. So I think there's an interesting element of.
Well, with Fallout Shelter, I typically try to talk them out of fighting, but that only works maybe 1 out of 10 times.
I mean,
Maybe,
exactly,
and that's me
and
being generous with that number.
you have to have your intelligence and potentially charisma as well high enough for that to even be an option.
Yeah.
So it's like if you get to those scenarios and you don't have enough intelligence or charisma, then you're just going to have to fight, which is a funny sort of. That's a real world uh scenario, but the way that it plays out in the game, I think they do a really good job of like it doesn't feel anticlimactic when in the conversations that you have because they're high level, they have large implications in the storyline, and then it's like the de-escalation through conversation feels like this whole different like accomplishment. And I think that's where giving that option is in video games. If we don't have that option, then it's not going to be possible to do that in television or film. And the only reason I even think about that is have you seen I'm a Virgo?
I have not.
I won't go into too much detail, but like I think one of the themes that gets handled is like if you're a creator and you're anti-violence, how do you create media that doesn't acquiesce to the expectations of violence in certain beats and certain
Whoa.
parts?
So I need to watch this because the first thing I read was a coming of age joyride about a 13-foot tall man who escapes to experience the beauty and contradictions of the real world. He forms
Yes.
friendships, finds love, navigates awkward situations, and encounters his idol named the hero.
Yes. It's not subtle.
A
It's
13
not
foot tall
subtle.
dude. Woo!
And so what's funny is like you don't really hear much about it because Boots Riley's a communist, so he's not gonna put a bunch of money into marketing, or I guess allow money to be put into marketing because I didn't really hear anything about it except I think I had only even heard the first half of what you just said before even thinking about watching it. So it was like I really had no concept of what to expect going in. And so even that description, you're not really going to be prepared for what's happening because it's like it's not one thing. I realize there's like multiple genres of like episodic televised media being employed, and it's not I think there's a statement in it. I could be wrong, but knowing like what the author or the creator has done in other instances, it's like it definitely seems like there's intentional use of more than one. Like it's not a rom-com, it's not like it's not like a vignette, like the way Atlanta does vignettes but also has like a higher arc. It's not that. So there's things that you when you watch it, you want to like ground it in some form of like pre-existing television show, but you can't really do that. And I think that's on purpose. I think Boots Riley does that with his media on purpose, like anytime. But this one, I think that's why they might have also had a hard time marketing it because it's like I don't know who you would really market it to, like without giving away too much. It's like halfway through, you would think you would want to market it to one audience, but then when you get to the third act, you're like, I don't know if they'd actually appreciate this or like this. So
I wouldn't know who to market that to. A coming of age story about a 13-foot tall dude. So, on a completely different note, California is like 11% of the population, something like that. 11.7% in 2022, and it's been on the decline for the last decade. Or not, no, sorry, population growth has been on the decline over the course of the last decade. So they're still getting, the population still growing, but they're not keeping pace with the rest of the country on the average. And they are responsible for something between 60 and 85% of the sulfuryl fluoride emissions in the United States, which is a really hardcore greenhouse gas that's much worse than carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide. It's pretty insane. And it's the result of termite fumigation.
huh.
Apparently, the termites in California are so bad
Wow.
that they're putting out 60 to 85% of the sulfur fluoride emissions. And that's insane. 10% of the people are using a little bit over half to a little bit over 75% of greenhouse emissions. What kind of termites do they have?
Man, it feels like California is just a ticking time bomb for so many reasons. Like
I don't
if it's
think
not the earthquakes. Also, fucking New York City having an earthquake. I mean, not just New York City, but the tri-state area. Like
Jersey, Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania all started shaking. Like it, people apparently felt it in Vermont. That's a seaboard that's
yeah,
not built for earthquakes.
after the bridge disaster, it feels like America is just falling apart. Like somebody pulled a string that shouldn't have been pulled. That
Well,
was like the last stitch, and it's like it's just falling apart so fast.
I can't remember where I read it, but apparently the Biden administration initiated some kind of survey to the infrastructure, America's infrastructure, to determine what needed to be done. And apparently that bridge got the recommendation to build some bumpers, some big pylons around the bridge. And it was going to cost them, a bunch of money that they said they just couldn't get together in the budget. But it was going to be a lot less than building a whole new bridge.
uh,
It just makes me just frustrated. They could have issued a bunch of bonds, and they might have had to raise taxes or put a toll over it for use of the bridge, but they could have built it and they could have paid for it. They could have done all that stuff without having to build a whole new ass bridge. And then, of course, the shipping company that is trying to cite some like ancient maritime law and say, "Oh yeah, we're not liable for the extent of our damages. We're only liable to the value of the ship after the salvage." Motherfuckers.
and if they let that shit slide, like, ooh, America is so cooked. It it feels like everything is broken. Everybody is like scamming and trying to just get their last bit of capital or Bitcoin or gold or whatever they think they can just hoard and like survive whatever impending AI apocalypse is being hyped up. It's really funny to see that shit too because I'm like AI is gonna come and go so fast in the mainstream. Like it's not gonna go away, but as far as the way that it's being pushed as like the next big thing, it doesn't make any sense. It and the main problem with AI is like this economy, this stupid fucking economy that these goddamn idiot Westerners have built depends upon consumers. And so if you take away the consumers via AI, like it don't even have to be all of them. It just enough of them where it's impacted that the impact is felt, then people are going to stop doing it in the way that, or corporations are going to stop doing it in a way that negatively impacts them. The problem being when people, especially in America, there's like a large population of Luddites. And when those Luddites don't have any other concept of existing besides job based distribution of capital, then the loss of jobs is going to look like their lives are going to come to an end. And they're not going to just sit there and take that, especially this super vocal white male population that has taken over the like internet where anytime you go and try to have a conversation, they're the ones that come in and say some stupid fucking racist shit and can't allow any other conversation to happen. Those people aren't also like there's going to be some of that population that's into AI, and they're going to be like making racist AI bots and coming up with new ways to call people N words without having to call them that, and the bots doing it for them. Yeah, sure, there's going to be some racists that embrace the tech, but most of them are going to be worried about not being able to do their stupid fucking job, whatever they do every day, where they're slacking off and are really on Facebook calling somebody the N word, or like fucking playing Xbox in the Xbox lobby, supposed to be working, calling somebody the N word, and that's what they're doing now. They're gonna be worried that AI is gonna take their job, and they're not gonna have any like luxury time to be racist. So they're not gonna want AI to come in and take their job either. So in this first push of corporations looking to embrace AI, it's like, yeah, we're seeing a lot of corporations embrace AI and a lot of corporations start laying people off. But once that, like, the back end repercussions of those things start happening, when like Apple sales drop like directly proportionate with the people who've been cut from those jobs, that's when they're going to start being like, oh, fuck, we're getting negative impact from embracing AI. And they're going to have to change their bottom line. So it's like, I think the people who are proponents of AI are only pushing the narrative that discusses the corporate benefits on their cost side, but it doesn't talk about the negative impact that's going to happen on their income side, because it's definitely going to impact their income, just because of the fact that people are going to have fucking less money and AI doesn't buy things. So like this cycle has a definite end. It doesn't mathematically work. You can't take out consumers from a consumer-based economy and have that economy continue to run accordingly, especially when the AI is as energy intensive as it is. It doesn't.
Oh, it leads to a dead internet. It leads to a point where like the AI assistant is so good that we don't actually use the internet. We just tell the AI to go do the things on the internet for us, and it brings stuff back for us, and then we go do whatever else we do. And then at that point, the internet no longer generates revenue for itself.
And all of the revenue at that point exists on the real world person who's delivering whatever is being ordered on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's where the gig economy exists now. That's what Uber Eats is now. That's what Lyft is now. All of the actual valuable assets, we're already there. We're already fucking there. It just looks like we're not, because the access to the physical side is still through the internet. So as soon as people start calling taxis again, and they start calling things again, and they start calling in their food orders, it's going to be obvious that the internet is actually dead, and it's the physical side that's keeping it alive right now. The physical side was the only thing that ever really mattered. And the problem was when Apple tried to make apps super valuable. They pump and dumped apps the same way people pump and dumped Bitcoin, the same way people pump and dumped Theranos and currently Trump Social. It's like you can pump and dump anything, especially abstract applications. If you have like a game studio that just puts out cloned games that are taking purchase assets and repurposing them into things that are low overhead and high yield, because it's an unpopulated app market where anybody can put in an app that's 99 cents and a bunch of people are going to come try it because there's nothing else to try. That portion of the app rush, or whatever you want to call it, put a disproportionate perceived value on the internet as to what actually was valuable. Because then it's like, apps aren't valuable, good apps are valuable. And even then, in a sea of bad apps, it's like good apps with visibility and a community are valuable. Like, you can have a good app But unless you have visibility in a community, your app isn't really valuable either. So there's a lot of things about the current marketplace that the original supply and demand curve or graph don't reflect in terms of like the things that constitute demand being partially organic and mostly inorganic. When demand is determined by expectation of capacity to resell and make more money as a buyer, then consumption has even been consumption has been polluted in a way that the real consumer is then behind a middleman, and someone who's trying to get their product to someone has to go through scalpers and the algorithm of middlemen to then get to their customer base. So then that part can be used to just destroy companies by organizations and corporations that have a vested interest of certain technologies not becoming ubiquitous. They can just go in and buy up all of the stock of something and just bury it in the desert if that's like um a real thing that's happened that is a good metaphor. It's like electric vehicles can literally be buried in the desert if car companies think it's better for them to keep selling internal combustion vehicles for profit's sake. And that's where I'm like, that that profit preference clearly doesn't take into account, I don't want to call like existence on the planet a zero sum game. Um, but if one group is making insane profit while destroying the planet, everybody loses. Like even if they win in profit, everyone still loses. So it's like it's potentially a negative sum game if we're not making the people who have too much power and too much influence not destroy the planet. Like if we let them get in a situation where you have these capital, let's call them capital hoarders, that on the one hand try to appear as if they're saving the planet, but then on the other hand are dumping more carbon into the atmosphere than anybody, whether it's because they're launching fucking rockets or because they're taking private jets. Allowing those people to do things just because they have money is actually rich people's influence on government. Because there's like, it's obvious when you look at it, but it's like there's certain things where you have to get a license. And if you don't pass the test to get that license, you won't be allowed to do that thing. Certain, and then other things that you would assume have those things just have a really steep paywall to get into them. So it's like a supercar. If you have a license and a supercar is street legal, there's no extra step that you have to go through to be like if you just have a regular license, like you don't have to get a F1 fucking operator's license to drive the car, let alone to purchase it. So it's like making it seem as if a fucking McLaren is the same as a Ford Escort. That's because rich people want to be able to do things at whims that no one should be able to do at a whim.
Dude,
let
I
alone
remember
someone who doesn't.
I remember watching for like 20 minutes. It was like in 2009, or I think it was 2009 or 2010. I remember sitting at like a 10th and Madison, right next to the incubator, down by City Hall, and this dude in a green Lamborghini. There was snow and ice on the ground. In a green Lamborghini was trying to drive up a hill, and it was just like going up a few feet, then sliding back a few feet, then going up a few feet, then slide. And you hear this. It was unreal. Fucking Lamborghini.
Like, how does someone
What?
be able to afford a Lamborghini, but also be that idiotic
Yeah,
to not
like,
understand why they can't get up a hill in a Lamborghini in
I mean,
snow?
they're stupid enough to think my Lamborghini should be able to do this. Like, that's the biggest problem. Is I got this crazy car. It should do these things. I'm gonna make it do these things. There's a lack of sense behind the wheel in a lot of people in my casual observations. Either when I'm on the road or when I'm just sitting in my house and some person driving, probably drunk, crests the hill too fast and drives off the road and smacks directly into a tree. And this happened last night, actually.
Wow.
Like there was this notch in the front of their bumper in the hood where the tree hit. Like they went straight into it. They didn't like clip it with the side of the vehicle. It went straight into it. It was like in the middle of where the radiator sits. And I mean, that car is done. All airbags deployed. And then the driver of the vehicle was sitting down in the ditch, in the drainage ditch, like 50 feet, 100 feet away. And EMTs were, of course, doing their thing. And I was just sitting there looking at this beat to death now. I don't know, it didn't look like it was that old before, but now it's definitely dead SUV. And they must have been flying, like really flying. And I mean, like, I'm going to be really honest. I've gone over that hill going 60, 70 miles an hour in my youth when I was a fucking moron. And then I learned, it's not a good idea to do that shit. And I don't do that crap anymore. Now I live on this road and I really don't do that crap anymore. Especially because between like October and I guess through into April now, it's accident season. It used to only be like 4 months. It used to be like October just into, February. And then people would get their shit together because it's the coldest part of the year. And now I don't even think it's like a seasonal thing. I think it's just people being stupid.
You know what time of day it happened?
Oh, last night at like, oh, hold on. I can find out exactly when it happened because Sheila messaged me about it. Let's see.
Because I wonder if like traffic. I know I've been there when like traffic picks up and it's like people don't really slow down even though there's more cars coming through. And I'm like, I wonder if they're just
No, it was at 10:07 p.m.
mm,
It was dark out, and there were some people who were on the road, and they watched it. They were like pulling up to the intersection, and they watched this lady drive right into a tree. And the guy told the sheriff that, oh yeah, they were going real fast. I'm not even sure they tried to swerve. Maybe they lost their job to AI. That's a bad joke. That's a terrible joke. I apologize, internet.
well, 10 o'clock on a Saturday night in Bloomington, they're probably drinking.
Oh yeah, no, they like the guy said when he helped open the door to get help the person out, they not just concussed, but also like slurred speech and that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
But it doesn't surprise me. People drive up that hill going way too fast, anyways. They crest that hill going 60 miles an hour, sometimes faster. Accidents happen at that intersection all the time because it's at the top of a hill. I think that the I saw on a forum about electric vehicles the other day. Someone was complaining that they felt like they were just completely detached from the road and that they miss driving the way when you're driving you feel the road. And I started thinking about that. It's like, man, my Mazda is pretty detached from the road. My truck, I feel everything, but it also swings me all over the place because I'm sitting at the top of like an upside down pendulum. I'm not sure that I'm not sure what that actually means. Like when I drive my dad's,
I feel like that's some shit people just say. Honestly,
yeah, I know. Like when I feel like when I drive my dad's Miata, I don't feel the road so much as I feel, you know, a tiny car that has the ability to toss me around inside of it because it holds onto the ground really well. But I'm not sure if like if I could feel the road, I would actually be concerned about the suspension and the dampers. And maybe there's something wrong with the bushing in my vehicles.
have you ever rollerbladed on asphalt?
Yeah, it sucks.
That fucking sucks. When
Oh
you can
yeah.
actually feel the
Oh
road,
god,
it
yeah. Your
sucks.
knees
So
hate you
like
afterwards.
that's why I feel like it's some shit that people just say because they heard it somewhere and somebody thought it sounded cool. Like, oh yeah, you can feel the road, man. It's real
Yeah, but
responsive.
that's
It's
what I
like,
mean. Like, what does that actually mean?
no, man. It's
Feel
some,
the road? Like, is that like sitting down on a skateboard and riding down the hill when you're a kid, bombing a hill on a skateboard? Is that sensation of feeling the road? Like when you fall off and hit the road, is that feeling the road enough?
and I mean, on the one hand, it's like if you're saying the feedback you can feel from the tires is somehow different on an internal combustion engine than the feedback you feel on tires from an electric engine, I feel like that person's just dumb. You know what I mean? I feel
Yeah.
like that person's like a fucking idiot and like they really are like anti decimal system and they're really against like roundabouts probably and shit like
You
that
know,
where I'm like
I might believe it if it was like a world class GT racer or an F1 racer, somebody who's actually like drives at the absolute limits of mechanical adhesion of tires and has, you know, is working world class race cars where everything's fine tuned and really tight, not squishy like a passenger vehicle. I might believe that, but I've never read any of those guys saying any of that stuff. They're just
nope,
they just
never
talk about like
them.
the handling and how fast they accelerate and how quickly they decelerate
I
and
think
how many
those
G's
guys
they
are
can hold in a turn and
those people are who they are because it doesn't matter what car it
yeah,
is and they can
exactly.
drive it like that.
Yeah, I don't think Emerson Fittipaldi would have given a damn what car he was racing. He was just gonna win.
Because then it's like, you know, hate on whatever. It's like somebody took a Tesla and got a faster time
Oh,
on a
Nurburgring.
yeah. And it's like, well, it's not about the straightaway. You're like, yeah, it can handle curves. So,
It's
but the
about the
person
driver.
driving it, yes, exactly. The person driving it has to understand the car. Like a regular person wouldn't be able to do those numbers with the fucking Tesla.
Oh man. I bet a regular person in a Tesla still wouldn't be able to come close to the record for like a whatever the fastest Civic on Nurburgring is.
No, they just go off the
They'd
road.
go off the road.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they would.
They wouldn't DNF, did not finish. That's the regular person because they fucking take the first curve too fast because they don't understand generally don't understand physics. Like I don't know if you've seen that video of Brendan Schaub flipping his truck, but that's the regular person with too much power. Basically, as soon as they try to turn the car, they're like not gonna come off the fucking pedal And that's, there's always those videos of supercars fucking having too much torque and immediately curving into a wall. And it's that person. It's always that person who has too much money but not enough understanding of physics. That they can just put their foot on the floor in a car with like 1,000 horsepower and not have the torque. Like especially if it's only rear wheel drive, not have the torque take the back end out of the vehicle.
Oh my goodness, he had a Ram TRX. Those things are like really fancy.
Yeah, and it's like
Oh, at
you.
least he was wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah. Um. But then they have video of him in heavy air quotes driving and not flipping it, and you can tell it's actually a stunt driver, not him, because the stunt driver is not doing the same dumb shit that he immediately does in the like. None of the shots of the car or of the truck not flipping have the face visible.
Yeah. Oh man, that's such a shame. This is such an expensive build. They put so much stuff into this truck. Okay, so the other day I saw a video. It was like a TikTok or a YouTube short or one of those things, the portrait mode camera video type thing. And it was like a 2002 Ranger, like a stock Ranger, just driving like crazy on the section of road right next to the road out in the desert. And it was just floating, but the wheels were going crazy inside of it. And I thought to myself, like, man, there was a time when like you didn't have to go buy an $80,000 truck to beat the living crap out of it. You could just get a regular, $20,000 truck and beat the crap out of it. That's the part that I don't get. Like, they're gonna destroy these things. Why are they spending so much damn money to destroy them? There's some old square body or some old farm truck out there that is itching to be like driven to death. Obviously, they're trying to monetize their podcast or their YouTube channel and show that they can build fancy vehicles. But I don't understand like how how does the business model work where it also allows them to destroy the vehicle?
I don't think they're good at math, bro. I think that's it's funny because I watched a video this morning about one of those influencers that destroyed a car and tried to say it was for the monetization. And it's like they destroyed a $250,000 car, but only got 200,000, like less than 200,000 views on the video. So it's like there's no way that mathematically works out. No way. But that person's gonna make it seem like that's like on purpose and not, well, yeah, that there's definitely people out there lying about all of these numbers, and maybe they don't understand them, and maybe they are just doing it because they're getting sponsored by somebody else. I don't know what the case is, but yeah, the math does not work. It definitely does not work.
So much fucking money just flip. I'm sure that a lot of those parts are fine and they can be pulled and put on something else, but now they're used. Now they can't recoup the full value of any of that stuff. Maybe it gets totaled out. The insurance pays for a huge chunk of it, and they just keep it, and that's their scam.
And but then what do they do with it though? right? Like the insurance company, they're not going to rebuild that shit.
Oh hell no, they just total it out and scrap it and recover any parts that they can recover. Typically, that's what happens with a wrecked vehicle that gets totaled out. Maybe they're putting the original parts back on it and saying that it still has the other stuff on it, and then it really is a scam. I'm sure that insurance companies have legal departments that are very aware of this kind of shit, and they're just waiting for the person to hit the right number so they can go in and say, "Sorry about you, buddy. We're going to prosecute, or we're going to file some kind of." I don't know what the hell that. I don't know how insurance companies actually go after people. That's not actually in the realm of stuff that I've put a lot of time researching. Mostly because insurance companies just frustrate me. The more I read about them, the less I want to know. Okay, I just found everything that I could find about that dude. That's kind of it. I wonder if he blew his like all of his stockpile of cash from UFC on that damn truck that he flipped.
Oh man. Well, he definitely fucked up his quote unquote comedy career and had to retire from comedy. So I don't know if he's able to grift those people anymore.
The trajectory for the person who's willing to get beat up has got to be really short now. Like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, probably a bit better, but now
Well,
the
with mixed martial arts especially.
yeah, like the level of getting beat up is way more than it ever was before. And the
And it's funny, like on that note, influencers can garner just as much, if not more, attention than somebody who's like been a combat sports practitioner their entire life. So like the idea of Floyd Mayweather being at the top of the boxing world going against one of the Paul brothers, who's basically just an influencer. I think it wasn't the beginning, but that opened up the door for those influencer fights to be just as important in the zeitgeist as like a regular um combat sports practitioner. And so
man,
that's why
I I
we
I,
were
I really hope that Jake Paul punches Mike Tyson just a little too hard, and Mike thinks, "Wait, did he just hit me for real?" Oh, it's on, because I would really like to see that.
well, I don't know how much you've been monitoring it. Um a lawyer sent a request to the athletic commission to like ask if it's an exhibition, and the athletic commission wasn't able to tell him like yes or no, meaning that 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 is a heavy implication that they don't know if this is a fixed fight or not, because it's like if it's an exhibition, it's there's no winner or loser, and then if it's an actual sanctioned fight, then there are rules and it counts for a record. This doesn't sound like it's either one,
Yeah,
and they can't, like the lawyer that sent the request for information couldn't get a clear answer from the athletic commission, because it doesn't sound like the athletic commission knows either. So if they're not really informing the athletic commission, and they're not, this isn't like a sanctioned event and it's not like a sanctioned exhibition, and they're still going through with it, it's definitely entertainment. And if it's entertainment, then there's definitely an outcome. So I think that's where it's like,
so it's like the WWE boxing.
yes, if this is not cleared up, because there's definitely been fights before that weren't this type of WWE potential event, where like him versus Jake Paul versus Tyrone Woodley, or like Ben Askren, they were real fights. Um or I think they were real exhibitions. So it was like sanctioned, and like if there was any sort of inclination that it was fixed, they would get in trouble for it because it was meant to be a sanctioned event. This does not sound like it's that case. So if they fix it, then there's no real legal implications because they weren't trying to actually get status as a real fight. And that's where it's like this is yet to be determined, but it'll be interesting to see like if Jake Paul air quote heavy air quote knocks. I don't think it would do him any good to knock out Mike Tyson. But if he lands punches on Mike Tyson and doesn't get knocked out in a way that it doesn't look real to people who know enough to know it's not real, but then it looks real to people who are willing to bet on it.
Well, we saw
The,
that. What was that? The Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr.
right.
Like that was just an exhibition, but Roy Jones Jr. knew that he had to like come prepared.
Of course. And I think that's the difference where it's like they weren't like it wasn't trying to get they weren't trying to get a knockout. They weren't trying to have it so like somebody got potentially hurt. It was meant to be an exhibition. This we don't know. And so if it if it looks like Mike Tyson like knocks Jake Paul down and then Jake Paul like goes a full fight with him and doesn't get knocked out, there are going to be people who bet that doesn't happen and they're going to lose their money.
Yeah.
All it takes is Jake Paul not to get knocked out and a bunch of people are going to lose money. No way in hell he's knocking out Mike Tyson because again, that doesn't do anybody any good. I don't know if this were a real fight, I don't know if Jake Paul could actually knock out Mike Tyson, like the Mike Tyson that's willing to bite somebody. I don't think he can knock that person out in the universe. Like maybe an old man Mike Tyson who's like changed his ways and is afraid to actually hurt somebody because he's hurt too many people in his past.
So you're saying that Mike Tyson has to be fully fed and have also eaten mushrooms recently and be really stoned?
I don't think he ate. I don't think he bit Evander's ear because he was hungry.
I'm just no, but we got a modern Mike Tyson who's changed and eats mushrooms and smokes weed, and so he's got a. I'm just saying, like all the factors that might. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm very curious about the outcome because I've always enjoyed watching Mike Tyson throw those gloves around, and even as he gets older, he's still really interesting to watch. He can still move, at least for a little while longer, I think. But he's not a spring chicken, so. He could also be like in the I'm just having fun phase of his life and doesn't really care. Just does stuff. Because he does just do things.
If that were the case, he wouldn't have shut down hot boxing.
Oh, yeah.
I think when you go $400 million in the hole, that's a big hole. I don't know how long it takes to get out of a $400 million hole. He still may not be out of that hole yet.
Yeah.
That's a big hole.
Yeah.
A very big hole. So like I'm looking at all these other people.
So
like,
$700 million.
Oh, it was 7. I thought it was 4.
Oh no, sorry, that's how much he lost $600 million on it. It was worth $700 million.
I mean, beyond that, he was in debt. I think like 400 million, if not more than that. Yeah. How does a man?
Yeah, $400 million.
Okay. Wait. He earned $400 million and ended up $40 million in debt. That okay? I had my numbers reversed. It was like I think the peak was 60 million in debt, but his total life earnings had been 400
No, his
million.
total life earnings are closer to between $600 and $700 million total.
Now,
Yeah, now,
now,
but by that point, probably not.
um, yeah, no, this was explicitly when he had to start like, I think it was like before his daughter died too,
He burned
or like
through
right
six
around that time.
hundred million dollars. Wow.
Because then whenever he started doing the one man show in Vegas is when he started coming out of the hole, and he started doing like a character character rejuvenation tour, and was like going around doing like, The View or whatever. I don't know, whatever shows he'd be on, like places you never expect him, talking to people you never expect him to, in ways saying things that you wouldn't expect because he was trying to like wash his image. And it worked because then he got out of, or appeared at least to get out of a hole where once he started selling edibles shaped like the ears, and then he did that before he did the weed. Then he started getting his own weed. So it's like he started generating revenue, but clearly, if hotboxing is shutting down, there's like there's some sort of retraction, or like his organization is now in a shrinking mode. It was growing for like the last 10 years and now it's shrinking again, which is where it's like
Oh wow!
that.
It only took him 6 years to make $430 million.
But how much does he spend? Because then you find out
It
shit
only
like
took him
he
15
smokes like
years. It took him 15
forty
years.
thousand dollars worth of weed a month.
God damn.
Um, and it's like, you know, his spending may not have been adjusted again. So then he may have like gone back into the hole again, and that's why he's fighting Jake Paul. We don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. 15 years is all it took to spend it. Filed for bankruptcy in 2020 or 2003.
Well, because then you hear stories of shit he would do, and it's like he would have like a Rolls Royce or something, and just like give it away to somebody, and then his people would have to go find it and be like, "Sorry, I know Mike gave it to you, but you just can't. You can't just like have this car." And they'd have to like recover, and sometimes they wouldn't. So it's like, depending on the value of what he would be giving away, it's like, yeah, dude might just give away a fucking car
He's going to get at least $20
because,
million for getting in the ring with Jake Paul. And it's expected that his final payout will be somewhere between 50 and $300 million range.
well, and it's saying right, like right now, potentially Tyson's worth $10 million.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
So he's going to about to triple his net worth here in one fight.
right.
Shit, of course he's going to do it. He's going to make a minimum of 20
Assuming,
million.
well, assuming that net worth isn't still debt of some sort,
Yeah.
because it's like, yeah, I think I think the media doesn't know Tyson's um finances for sure, and it's estimated at 10 million. So you can be damn sure it's probably not as high as what's estimated, because it's like it never is for anybody. Anytime somebody's worth is estimated, it's never as high as it's estimated.
His current
Oh,
debt is estimated to be $23 million.
yeah, there you go. Because it's like debt is one of those crazy traps where even like, especially if you're poor, if you fall into debt, it's really hard to get out. But like, rich person debt is like a whole different beast because those interest rates, when you're talking about those types of fucking digits, man, 1% on $100 million, fuck, that's and you know it ain't gonna be 1%. So I think like especially knowing the way that like taxes work, the more international your income gets, the more taxes you get, and the less the
Oh no,
less benefit.
his current net worth is estimated to be approximately $10 million. So
Right.
he's back in the
That's
positive. That's good.
I mean, but you're not in the positive if your net worth is 10 million and your debt is 23 million.
Yeah.
You just haven't your debt hasn't been called in. So he's technically he's like net negative right now if his debts were called in, which is where again it's like that sounds it's better to be 13 million in debt than 300 million in debt.
Yeah.
Um obviously, but 13 million in debt is still like say he makes $10 million a year. If he takes a significant portion of that and pays off part of his debt is going to continue to accrue in such a way that it's like $10 million sounds like a lot, but then once you take out taxes, it's actually like $6 million if it's only in the United States. And then now you have $6 million. And what are your costs? Well, if he's living in a nice place, fucking potentially $100,000 a month. Well, then that's $1.2 million off. So now you're down to 5 million. And so there's these things about like what looks like 10 million on paper per year is probably actually more like 5 million on paper per year, or like maybe even closer to 3 million on paper per year. So the notion that somebody would be able to like pay down a debt, it looks, I think rich people look disproportionately able to pay down debts, but that's fucking Bruno Mars, man. Like you
Oh
would
yeah.
think Bruno Mars is making so much money that he would never fall into debt, but apparently dude has like a $50 million debt with MGM. And so it's like they basically own him because he's not able to make enough money in 1 year to pay it off. And the fucking interest is going to continue to accrue to Bruno Mars may never get out of that debt, which is that sounds crazy. Like for me to be saying something about a person who's made so much money because they got caught in a debt trap, I can say, oh, Bruno Mars may never get out of debt unless X, Y, and Z. And it's like that's a reality of
Oh, it looks like MGM has scrubbed his debt.
what does that mean, bro?
It says Bruno Mars
What does
doesn't
that
owe
mean?
$50 million in gambling debt.
What does that entail? What does that look like when somebody has $50 million of debt and they just wipe it away? That does not happen in real life. That's not, we don't know the conditions under which that $50 million got wiped away. They own him, especially if they forgave $50 million in debt. They fucking own him. So that's where I'm like, what what is it? What is a person sleeping at night who knows that $50 million got wiped away? What are they waiting for to come and cash that debt? Because they're waiting for something. You know, every night Bruno Mars is sleeping like, what are they gonna fucking expect from me? If it's not already in some hidden fucking agreement that they're like, yeah, you're gonna be performing here until the day you die. We don't care if you die when you're 100. We don't care if you die when you're 20, like 35, you're gonna be here till you die.
Well, they've
And
probably
that's
got a
their grief.
monumental life insurance policy on him now. Live or die, they're gonna get their money. Yeah, they're just denying that he owes them $50 million from gambling.
No, he doesn't owe us money. No.
Yeah, some suit showed up at his hotel suite and said, "You're gonna deny any of this stuff. You're gonna say that you don't know any money. We're gonna say the same thing." And that's it. Damn.
They're like, no, it's not 50 million. Actually, it was 75.
Well, now they're saying he makes 67 million was one of the other number. Whereas I saw another number up here. Apparently, he makes them $90 million a year. The Mars MGM partnership. Man, that's a really fucked up way to say we own somebody. Partnership.
You know what? It was originally a 2-year deal in 2016.
Oh god. Okay.
So he's been there for 8 years on a 2-year deal.
So what is he just like doing his songs and doing like covers of Michael Jackson songs or something?
90 to 95 minutes.
Twice a day?
Oh my God.
He has to perform for 3 hours a day? Every day?
Oh my God. That is so. I know his throat was just raw constantly. He probably didn't even talk outside of the concert. Cause man, I know you build up resistance to like that type of, I mean, not that type,
Oh, he's only doing one show a day.
but even still,
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
that's a long time for singing.
They've got 14 shows on the schedule for this year between now and September 1st. But still, that's a lot.
Okay, so it does seem like they would like not do more than 2 days in a row.
Yeah, they're only doing 2 days in a row.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say because some of these, like I guess like the Blue Man Group or some shit is probably every single day,
I bet they have
or
to do
not
like
the weekend.
I bet they do like 3 performances a day.
Yeah.
Like morning, noon, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner performances of the Blue Man Group. Speaking of Blue Man Group, I saw this like I guess they're called stitches now. Some lady went on an internet dating site and met some dude and then went to a Blue Man Group concert and thought she got stood up, but it was one of the Blue Men. It was kind of it was really
That's
surreal.
funny.
Like she's like sitting there, there's no one there next to her in the seat, and then the Blue Man dude like goes and gets her and shit. It's kind of cool. And those they're so enigmatic. Like I kind of it has this very heavy like this is real vibe because like the woman wasn't anyone like that would stand out. It was it seemed like the kind of a strangely organic. This makes sense within the context of the Blue Men because they're all really. We don't know anything about them other than that they're kind of eccentric. Kind of.
Right? They could be wearing bald caps for all we know.
Yeah.
We assume they're bald, but who knows?
We don't know. That blue paste they put on is so thick. I actually really like watching like clips of the Blue Man Group because they have a so there's that trend on YouTube for a while or on the internet for a while where we see guys taking their weird pipe, uh, like plumbing PVC pipe instruments and beat on them with their sandals, and they would make some kind of sort of sounds like electronic music sounding stuff. Kind of very cool. But the Blue Man Group built this gigantic version of it that all three of them play, of course, and it's just incredible. They get to make some of the most bizarre. I mean, they make their own instruments, obviously, but they get to make some of the most bizarre versions of music that you kind of recognize, all while acting just completely weird. I think it's great. It's like a unique version of entertainment that doesn't rely on disparaging anybody. I think that's actually a lot, like, way more valuable than we realize. Like, more than ever. I've never seen Blue Man Group, but I'd love to see them perform. They're like watching a living, breathing, walking. I don't think they talk, but like living, breathing, walking Rube Goldberg machine that doesn't result in somebody dying.
Yeah, I feel like they were really mainstream at one point, where now I feel like kids probably don't know who they are.
Well, that's their parents' fault. I'm serious. I'm pretty sure that I can't. I'm trying to think. Like, is there a more wholesome entertainment act that's like kid and adult friendly?
Well, but like, was it Pepsi? I think that they were. I feel like at one point they were like doing commercials. Yeah, it was for Miranda, but it was like PepsiCo had them in '94. So that's where I'm like, yeah, we had Blue Man Group in like fucking ads growing up.
Yeah.
Well, but that's like, okay, have you heard of Jabberwockies?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a similar issue where it's like you wouldn't know if you met one of those people in real life. So they
Dude.
have the capacity to like never be the same. Like
Blue
it
Man
may
Group has
be
existed since 1987.
right. So at this point, it's how many
Wow.
people have they rotated through, and we don't know because they they're all wearing face paint. So like,
Looks like they're of the original three. It's a fraternity of 70.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's crazy. Nobody would have ever guessed that there's fucking 70 members of the Blue Man Group.
Because you only ever see three of them.
Right. And apparently it's six in each cast. So it's like you see three, but it's really six.
Oh my goodness.
Which makes a lot of sense then.
Yeah, that explains how they can just like one walks off stage and another one walks off on the other, comes in on the other side of the stage, and you think, what kind of portal magic is this?
And I bet very few people have ever bothered to go that far in the lore. Like it's taken us 30 years to figure out that it's not just three dudes. We knew it wasn't gonna be necessarily the same three dudes, but we all thought it was three dudes. Oh, it's fucking 70. It's fucking 70. So yeah. Nobody would ever know if they ran into one of those 70 people in real life, which is, with Jabberwockies, I think it's the same shit where I think you'll see 5 dancing, or maybe they may have up to 10, but at any given moment they have like 40 to 50 people in their troupe.
Oh, dude, they definitely wear bald caps. All of these guys have hair in their pictures. They're wearing those swim caps.
There you go. Then people will be looking for bald people, not finding looking for the wrong suspects.
Wow. $70 though. That's like, I think that's more. I wonder how many people were in Guar. Has no original members. $42, at least 42, maybe a few more, give or take.
Wow,
some unofficial, but that's more than Guar. And Guar's had a revolving door forever. Let's see how many people have total for like Parliament.
Oh my God, Parliament, they'll have like 50 on stage at once.
I know. Over 200 members.
Yeah.
16 of which have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the most Rock and Roll Hall of Famous band of all time. 16 people from one group.
The only group to have more than the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah. Let's see. The Wu-Tang Clan has a grand total of only 10 official.
That's because ODB passed, so yeah. It was 11.
And then they never officially.
But the affiliates,
the Wu-Tang Klansmen.
No, it's like official affiliates are like, there's so many.
Let's see, there are 300 known.
Over 300.
300 known Wu-Tang Clan affiliates. Man. You know, all they would have to do is combine with Parliament and they could form Voltron for real. It'd be like the most hardcore funkinest party of all time.
The never-ending jam session.
500 people. The cipher would take so long. They would go through every bass player and guitar player and drummer in the group. They'd all have to take breaks.
Oh my God. You reminded me. There was like a rap song where they tried to put like 50 or 100 people on it or something.
It was like the We Are the World of raps.
Yeah, and the problem with that is
no one can spit 8 solid bars and stop.
Yes, and people are so unoriginal that like I started just skipping through it and immediately found reuse rhymes within that same song. It's like it sucks if you bite somebody's rhyme in a different song, let alone two people with the same rhyme in the same song, not realizing they're saying the same shit,
Wait,
saying
two
it as
different
if
people bit somebody else's work?
no, they both just said some shit that was super obvious where
Oh.
it's like, um,
They both basically
spectacular.
said,
No, I remember it was spectacular vernacular. Two
mm.
people where I'm like, that's so obvious. Why would you go for that? That's like too low hanging fruit. Don't put spectacular vernacular in a rap song. It's too obvious. Like, but no, Snoop Dogg was one of them. I don't know who the other one was, but it's like, man, they call it like lyrical miracle rhyming.
Mm.
And
Uh, well,
it's like,
when you described it, I saw We Are the World, but with like the all stars of rap, and not
that's
that,
what they were trying to do.
but it from the sound of it, it sounds like it was more like a bad Farm Aid jam.
Yeah, it's like 40 minutes long, and there's like 110 people on the beat that rap on it. Yeah,
Let's see,
it's
Rolling
not.
110 Deep featuring Chic Louch, Styles P, Dave. Man, this just list goes on forever.
Yeah,
Rolling 110 Deep. Why?
I don't know, man. I don't know why somebody thought this was a good idea. I think on paper it sounds like a good idea. Go figure. Wu Tang is like heavy in the front end. Um, but it's like, yeah, this this is what people think is innovative, I guess. To have 110 people on one song. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
I mean, I can see a like a committee in a very high floor saying, "Guys, we need to create the We Are the World of Rap. It's a great idea. We'll be able to sell it to everyone. Everyone who likes rap is going to buy it. It's going to be like the historical record of rap in one song. It'll be the
The
greatest
thing,
rap song ever. It'll have everyone. It'll have Snoop Dogg and
fucking Shaq's on here. Man, it's like they could have had the greatest album of all time, but instead they have one
one
of the
song.
most convoluted, best, most well-intentioned, worst songs of all time. Because it's like, I'm sure it's actually good if you listen to some parts of it, but I'm not listening to one fucking 41-minute goddamn song that has, oh man. Ugh. It's exhausting even thinking about it.
I
I'm
can't.
just reading the names.
And I've watched like a King of the Dot, which is only like a 20-minute rap battle, and after about 10 minutes, it gets really just. And I feel like my brain is drying up because after a while, hearing somebody doing some kind of chopper style or doing some really fast thing, it might be really complex. It's probably really interesting if I just want to listen to it. If I actually were to like read it out loud or that kind of thing. But after like 5 minutes, I'm done with whatever's going on, unless it changes into something completely different. And it's not like I have a short attention span. It's just that I don't want to listen to one dude rapping for like 10 minutes. I don't want to listen to a whole crew of people rapping nonstop for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes. There has to be a break. That's why songs have like breakdowns, verses, chorus, a bridge. Sometimes there's a musical interlude where the the band or the DJ get to show off for a little bit. But the thing has to change. And then there's got to be some kind of like rising action so that it goes someplace. Otherwise, we're just in there for like a bunch of really short lectures that are kind of related, but probably not. 110 short like Ted Gangster Talks.
Yeah, everybody on this track got 20 seconds where I'm like, is that
20
is that even
seconds?
worth it?
20 seconds?
Yeah. That's pretty much
They
the
got 8 bars.
standard
They got eight
interval.
bars, and that's it. So they got 8 bars. Yeah, what are they going to say in 8 bars? They're going to say their name. They're going to say that they're a badass, and they're going to say something about what they're doing, and that's it. They might not even be able to say all that. That's a lot. That's 4 statements. That's a lot to do in 8 bars. Then they probably got some guys up there like Busta who can spit like twice the number of words in 8 bars than normal people can. And they actually are like, coherent. Yeah, I'm still trying to reconcile like why. I mean, they must have been smoking some really good weed. I mean, really good weed to think that this was worth pursuing. How much effort does it take to wrangle 110 cats? All the phone calls with their the assistants and schedulers and coordinating, like getting whatever. Maybe they just recorded it at home and sent it in, and they just mix it all together. But we're only 110 deep, featuring everyone,
Everyone, every rapper ever.
every rapper, even a few that are dead. He'll do some like stem sampling and pull the vocals out and just slap them on top of something else. Well, no, they did it to make history, because apparently there had never been a song to feature over 51 artists. But that can't be right.
Probably for good reason though,
Yeah,
right?
I remember watching like a Swedish metal guitar player got 100 guitar players together to play one song in front of a church, and it sounded like the worst version of a string quartet
Probably wasn't
symphony.
recorded though.
Uh,
Or like they might not have actively recorded it themselves. Like if they did it, the performance doesn't necessarily count as like
yeah, no, it
a
was
recording.
a performance, and like
Yeah.
but it still sounded terrible because these weren't like orchestral guitar players. These are like heavy metal guitar players that are used to not having to share that tonal space with anyone else, and so it just sounded like absolute guitar ass. Like if you had 50 boom boxes and each one of them had the same CD in them and you press play, but not all of them played at the same time, that kind of ass. And even that would have been in better in time and syncopated than what I listened to on YouTube. It's got to be difficult to get that many people to do anything. I mean, I know that
But I think this highlights the quantity versus quality debate.
yeah.
You just it's not even subtle here. Like this is all about quantity versus quality. And unfortunately, the two get equated all too often in ways where I'm like, there's no way you can get a quality verse in like 20 seconds. Like you just get part of a verse. It's not a full verse.
Yeah, that's not really even enough time to present an idea,
Yeah.
unless it's some like really minimal rapping, like they only say 12 words in 8 bars, and it's some kind of like hemiola rhythm that goes over it, and the meter of the words themselves are really specific. But that's like really cerebral rapping. That wouldn't even probably wouldn't even make sense in the context of an 110 deep. And that would just be like some weird spoken word type thing anyways.
Right? Because then what good is 110 person's song if none of this stuff connects to each other anyway? Because it's like if they manage to carry a narrative or carry a theme throughout it, that would be awesome. But they don't. It's just like you said, a lot of it is like, I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best.
It
Rap is
definitely
great.
it
I'm the
definitely falls
best.
short of "We Are the World," where everyone was like at least singing the song together. It'd have been really. It actually could have been really cool if they did something like a musical round where like one person starts saying like a phrase and then the next person starts saying it, but starting on the second word of the phrase, and they go like eight people into it, so that at one point every word is being said every time, and nobody messes up. That could have been really cool. I have my doubts that they had tried to accomplish something like that though. That's some like real church level stuff though. They might have been able to do it.
Right? I feel like
I think this is one of those moments where somebody should have said, "Hey, that's a dumb idea. You shouldn't do that shit."
yeah.
And then other people should have chimed in and they said, "Yeah, man, that's not a good idea." But nobody said that to that guy. The DJ Cash Slay, K Slay, apparently doesn't have any real friends who will tell
Mhm.
him, "Hey, man, that's a bad idea. Don't do this. It doesn't matter if you go down in history for this crap. It's just not going to be good." The only people who will listen to it for novelty because they heard about a song with 110 rappers in it. They're not going to actually listen to it or care about what anyone has to say. It's like completely disposable.
Yeah, let's see how many 4.1 million views. That's like for how many people they got on the track, that's not that many people.
Um,
Especially when you're like, you got half the fucking Wu-Tang Clan, Shaq, Snoop Dogg, fucking Black Thought. I mean, basically every fucking rapper from like the last 30 years. And all they got is 4.1 million views, where it's like,
I just pulled up one that stopped at 110 views. I think it was symbolic though.
the Shannon Sharp Cat Williams interview got 65 million views in 3 months. That video got 4 million views in 3 years. Or wait, was yeah,
2001.
3 years. A million, damn near a million views, a million and a third views a year. So like,
Here's one of the official DJ K-Slay uploads. It only has 163,000. No, yeah, 4.1 million views. He has 163,000 subscribers. That's not. That's horrible.
yeah, it's horrible.
2 years.
And if he has 100,000 subscribers, the videos he's uploading are getting like less than 100,000 views in more than a year. Like one video has less than 100,000, 2 years old, less than 50,000, 2 years old, less than 100,000, 2 years old. And so I think this rap, not hip hop, rap specifically became hyper focused on sales and numbers. And a lot of them were using bots and inflating numbers early on in the internet, like in the social media phase when it was easy to get away with. And now the bots are getting excised from the internet. So we're seeing like
Man,
a
these guys have had a
fucking,
show going on for
yeah,
years. They just thought it was a good idea. They have a huge network. They've like interviewed everybody. It looks like they got a decent looking studio. They've got like all the stuff. This is a primo operation here. Like they're not just they're. This isn't just like a couple of guys in a living room once a week kind of thing. This is like a real. They've got a full on like broadcast studio. Big ups to them, like fantastic. 8 years. Why didn't anyone tell them this is going to be a bad idea? They just thought, oh, it was great. We know what we're doing. Let's make an unmemorable 40-minute song. Didn't they know what happened to prog rock? Nobody remembers the name of any of those songs or what was on any of that shit. When the entirety of the whole last side of a record is one song, no one cares because you can't find anything. Have fun indexing 110 rappers over 40 minutes. That's just like a dick move. I'm gonna make this song that you have to like jump around to find. You might not even find what you're looking for. No one's gonna listen to that. Yeah, this guy's still releasing out 2 years ago, 5 months ago. Rolling 200 deep. Oh, they think it's a good idea still.
Oh no. Oh no, where does it stop?
I think that's where it stops.
Exceptional Radio. Exceptional Randos shows produced live in Sunroom Studios' Base Capsule. Remember to catch our Exceptional Randos live stream on YouTube every Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a story, idea, or question that you would like to share,
that worked out
we
pretty
want to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Well, that was random.
Exceptional Radio.